There really don't seem to be any signs of another government U-turn, this time on these big welfare benefit cuts. Sir Keir Starmer has told this programme today that he is determined to push ahead with his controversial welfare reforms. But as we know, dozens and dozens of Labour MPs are planning to rebel.
Let's hear from Anna, who is a campaigner receiving treatment for cancer, who currently gets personal independence payment, PIP, and universal credit.
To have any of that taken away and perhaps to have to rely on food banks? Am I going to end up in a situation where I may be sofa surfing or staying at families and friends because I can't afford my rent anymore, can't afford my utilities because my benefits have been cut?
Well, we're joined now by the Housing Minister, Matthew Pennycook. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Susanna.
We've heard this morning from Anna. We've also heard from Cheryl, who is from the Taking the PIP campaign, very concerned. Already in the last 6 years, homelessness among disabled families has risen by 75%. What's going to happen when people can't use their PIP or the health component of their universal credit to top up their rent and bills? As the Housing Minister, you must be concerned about the consequences.
Well, the government is taking concerted action to drive down rates of homelessness. But on the principle of welfare reform, the government is determined to push forward because the system as it's currently constituted is failing people. It's failing young people, it's failing employers, it's failing taxpayers. So we don't think it's acceptable to say, let's continue with the status quo. I mean, we've discussed this on previous occasions,
Let me ask
Susanna.
you, why do you think it's failing the people who receive it, if the people who receive it say it's essential for them to live successful, productive, working lives in many cases?
Well, I think the system is failing people, and I think your viewers would acknowledge that in the sense that we know 1 in 8 young people are not in employment, education or training. Spending on incapacity and disability benefits has soared by £20 billion since the pandemic. The sustainability of the system is at risk, so we do have to take forward targeted reforms. The principles of those reforms remain the same, which is that those who can work should work. Those who want to work should have the support put in place to allow them to do so.
But in many of these cases, Minister, people are working. PIP is not a benefit for those who are out of work, although I'm sure people who are out of work also can claim PIP. But in many of the cases, and in fact in the cases that we've been covering this morning, those individuals are working and they say they would not be able to work if you take away their PIP. And in one of the cases, we spoke to Alicia this morning, she thinks she is going to lose it and will no longer be able to work. So how is that going to help either her or the system? Well,
you'll forgive me, and I hope appreciate why, Susanna, I'm not going to pass comment on individual cases. There's no way live on TV I can properly account for the needs and
that you can't say it's about helping people back into work who aren't working. Many, many millions of these people are working and receiving
No, but
this
there's separate
benefit.
elements. There are separate elements of the reform, and the principles of the reform, as I've just laid out, remain the same. So we do know, for example, that those who do want to get back into work are not currently receiving the support that they're getting. That's why we're putting £1 billion of additional funding by the end of this Parliament into that employment support. We're recalibrating the incentives in the system between going to work and health benefits. That's an important measure. On PIP, though, and I'm happy to take this very straight on, PIP will remain an important non-means-tested benefit going forward, but it hasn't been reviewed in some time, and we do need to look at how it can be better targeted, because I come back to the sustainability point, and I think your viewers will recognise this. A system which is seeing 1,000 people each and every day awarded PIP is not a sustainable one. If we want that safety net to be there in years to come for those who might need it and who those on the highest needs need that support, we've got to look at reviewing it, got to ensure that it is properly targeted. And as you'll know, we're bringing forward legislation in the House of Commons this afternoon to that end. But I'm not going to comment on one specific people on your show will or won't be reassessed. The government's been very clear.
OK, we understand that. You won't comment on an individual case.
Well,
fine.
I can't.
Not
least, Richard.
Minister, instead of that, can you give us, please, a theoretical example, or kind of a what-if, of somebody who is currently receiving PIP, who, in your book, no longer should do? Give us an example. Give us a what-if.
No, I'm not. I won't speculate on hypothetical examples, Richard. We were very clear of the principles on how we intend to reform PIP and review it. We still think, you will have seen the OBR analysis, for example, that estimates that 9 in 10 recipients will still be receiving PIP at the end of this Parliament. But I don't think it's fair for me to get into individual cases. I can't do them justice.
I wasn't asking you for an individual case.
I just want to make, Richard, if I could just make this point.
Of the kind of the abuse of the system that we're talking about.
Could I just make this point, Richard?
Pardon?
Could I just make this point? Because I think it's important on your cases and why I can't give them. But I do think those cases highlight a failing of the system, which is that too many people are not getting in-person assessment by professionals. And that's a great example of how the system's failing. We did have at one point in time 7 out of 10 people receiving in-person assessments by trained professionals. It's now at the point we inherited the system 1 in 10. So people do need that bespoke support from healthcare professionals to judge whether they should be received PIP. But in principle, we do need to move to a more targeted approach, as I say, to ensure the system is sustainable over the long term.
You've said that throughout. What's your opinion on the views that programmes like this receive? Any phone-in programme you care to listen to talking about this, there are lots of examples from members of the public who phone in to say that they know of cases where people are gaming the system to receive PIP. Do you think that that's as big a problem as some members of the public do?
Well, I think what we have seen, and it's partly because PIP has not been reviewed for some time, and it's also because the incentives in the system as currently constituted are for people to seek those health benefits because the employment support that they're receiving is not comparable. So there are problematic incentives within the system as currently constituted, which is why it's so important that we take forward reform. But I come back to the sustainability point. We have seen over recent years an explosion in the PIP caseload. We know that 1,000 people each and every day are being awarded PIP. And if we continue on that trajectory, the system will not be sustainable. It will not be there for those who may need it with very high needs in years to come. So I come back to the principles of reform. Those who can work should work. Those who want to work but are not need support to get back in. Those who will never work, and that may be the case in some of the examples that you've had on your programme this morning, those who can never work need the support and protection and the dignity and respect they deserve from having been constantly reassessed. So we are going to make changes in that respect too. But we are absolutely committed to taking forward these reforms because, as I say, the status quo is untenable. And if we do nothing, we are setting ourselves up for a system that will, at some point in the future, collapse. It is not sustainable on its present arrangement.
All right, Mr. Pennycook, thank you for coming on and making those points.